It began like any other morning, the rhythmic sweep of a broom, the warm sun rising over the rooftops of Patna, India. But in a single, surreal moment, peace turned to panic. A brick came crashing down from above, then another and another. The attacker? Not a man, not a machine, but a band of wild monkeys. And the victim? A devoted temple priest, struck down in front of his home in an ambush no one could have seen coming. This wasn't a freak accident. It was a deadly escalation in a city plagued by primates gone rogue. Today, we uncover the terrifying truth behind one of the strangest and most tragic animal attacks in recent memory, and ask the chilling question, when animals invade our cities, who really holds the power? Welcome to Savage Tales Animal Encounters, the channel that dives deep into the most shocking, strange and true stories of wild animals clashing with humanity. From remote jungles to bustling cities, we explore real-life accounts where instinct collides with civilization, and the results are often deadly. In this episode, we travel to the urban heart of India, where a respected priest lost his life in an attack that sounds like fiction, until you realize it's a grim reality for many locals. We'll look into the rise in monkey aggression, the terrifying impact on communities, and the efforts being made to control an urban wildlife crisis spiraling out of control. If you think you've seen everything animals are capable of, think again. If you're fascinated, disturbed, or moved by today's story, do something wild. Hit that like button to show your support and help us bring attention to real-world wildlife encounters that too often go ignored. Share this video with friends, family, or on social media, because the more people understand the unpredictable nature of these conflicts, the more lives can be saved. Drop a comment below. Have you ever experienced an unexpected animal encounter? Or do you think humans are encroaching too far into wildlife territory? We want to hear your savage tales. Subscribe to our channel for weekly deep dives into the raw and untamed stories of nature, not the fairy tales, but the fierce, the fatal, and the fearless. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss another real-life survival story or wild encounter. Every episode reveals just how fragile the line is between the world we built and the wild world that was here first. This is Savage Tales, Animal Encounters, where nature doesn't knock, it breaks in. Breaks. It was a quiet Monday morning in the city of Patna, nestled in the northeastern state of Bihar, India. The air was warm and still, thick with the promise of another sweltering day in early December. In the heart of the city's residential sprawl, life moved at its usual rhythm. Bicycles clattered over uneven roads, rickshaws wove between pedestrians, and the chatter of morning vendors floated from the nearby market stalls. But inside one of the modest temple homes on the city's edge, 50-year-old Munna Mishra, a well-respected local priest, had already begun his day with devotion and discipline. Mishra was known throughout the neighborhood not only for his spiritual guidance but also for his simple lifestyle and quiet routines. He tended daily to the small temple adjacent to his home, a place where people came seeking peace, answers, or blessings. His mornings began with prayer, followed by humble chores, sweeping the grounds, tending to offerings, and keeping the temple grounds immaculate. That morning, as the sun rose slowly above the rooftops, casting long shadows across the narrow streets, Mishra took up his broom as he always did and began clearing the walkway outside his home. It was a ritual as much as it was a chore. The courtyard around the temple was strewn with dry leaves and scattered debris left by the night breeze, nothing unusual. But what was unusual was the eerie silence that had crept over the area. The birds were quiet. The dogs, usually nosing through alleyways in search of scraps, were nowhere to be seen. Instead, there was a different kind of presence, a low rustling overhead, the sound of faint claws skittering across concrete, and a distant chatter that sent a ripple of unease through the otherwise serene morning. Above Munna's modest home was a rooftop terrace, flat, open, and lined with loose bricks stacked near the edge, remnants of an unfinished or long-forgotten repair project. It was a spot that, in years past, had served as a place to dry clothes or sit in the evening breeze. But lately, that same terrace had become a frequent haunt for a gang of unruly intruders, wild monkeys, likely rhesus macaques, clever, territorial, and increasingly aggressive. These monkeys, emboldened by years of coexistence with humans, had grown bolder and more chaotic in their behavior. Driven by hunger, competition, and dwindling natural habitat, they often raided homes, snatched food, and even mugged pedestrians. Locals had begun to regard them not with amusement, but with genuine fear. And this wasn't some isolated incident. Over the past few weeks, monkey-related attacks had become alarmingly common in Patna. Women had been bitten, children had been chased. Even schoolyards were no longer safe. Despite repeated complaints to local officials, the situation only worsened. There were rumors that these rooftop gangs were being fed, intentionally or otherwise, by residents who didn't realize they were fueling a volatile situation. And now the monkeys had made the rooftops of homes like Mishra's their base of operations, using the high vantage points to stalk the humans below. Still, Munna Mishra seemed unfazed. Like many others, he likely believed that staying calm and minding his own business was the safest route. And so, with the broom in his hand and his eyes on the dust gathering at the temple's edge, he continued his morning routine. He swept with methodical precision, pausing now and then to collect larger pieces of debris and to shake leaves off the prayer mats laid outside the door. Above him, on the rooftop, a small troop of monkeys gathered, perhaps 4, maybe 5, their movement cautious but alert. Their dark eyes followed Mishra's every motion. One monkey crept toward the stacked bricks, its movements jittery, unpredictable. It wasn't hunger in their eyes now, it was agitation. At this moment, the priest paused and looked up, sensing a shift in the atmosphere. Maybe it was the sudden hush, maybe the faint sound of movement above. For just a second, he squinted into the light, as if trying to place something just out of sight. But nothing happened. Not yet. And then, with no warning, no time to shout or step away, the peace shattered. What came next would be over in seconds. A brutal, tragic moment that would turn a quiet act of morning devotion into a national headline and raise urgent questions about what happens when the wild isn't kept at bay, but climbs onto your rooftop, brick in hand. It began with a single sharp sound, a clink of something heavy sliding against cement, then a sudden thud. A brick, dislodged from the precarious stack on the rooftop, tumbled through the air like a weapon hurled by unseen hands. It crashed to the ground just inches from where Munna Mishra stood, exploding into fragments that scattered across the walkway like shrapnel. Startled, the priest jerked back and looked skyward, eyes squinting into the sun. What he saw was chaos in motion. The gang of monkeys had erupted into action. Whether out of fear, aggression, or some inexplicable primate strategy, they began hurling bricks, one after the other, down from the terrace. These were not light pebbles or pieces of fruit. These were solid, rough-edged construction bricks, each capable of inflicting serious harm. And with every thud, every crash, their intent became clearer. This wasn't play. This was an assault. One brick struck the base of a nearby pillar. Another shattered a clay pot just outside the temple's entrance. And then, with horrifying accuracy, one found its mark. A sickening, heavy crack echoed through the alleyway as a brick struck Munna Mishra directly on the top of his head. The force of the impact dropped him instantly. His broom clattered to the ground beside him. There was no scream, just silence. His body folded to the ground in a slow final motion, like a tree felled in a sudden gust of wind. The monkeys screeched from above, their noise rising into a high-pitched frenzy before they scattered, leaping from rooftop to rooftop, vanishing into the tangle of urban jungle that had become their domain. Seconds passed. Then a neighbour's door flung open. A woman screamed. Others rushed out into the alley. At first, no one fully understood what had happened. Only that the priest, their priest, was lying motionless on the stone walk, blood seeping from a wound no one could bear to look at. He was still breathing, barely. With no time to wait for an ambulance, locals flagged down a passing motor rickshaw. 2 men hoisted Munna's unconscious body into the back, trying to steady him as they raced toward the Nalanda Medical College and Hospital, one of the region's better-equipped facilities. But even there, time was the enemy. Doctors worked quickly, trying to stabilize the priest. A CT scan confirmed what many feared: massive cranial trauma. The brick had struck him with lethal precision, causing a skull fracture and internal bleeding. Despite every effort, Munna Mishra succumbed to his injuries shortly after arriving at the hospital. The city mourned. A temple priest, a man of peace and routine, killed not by illness or accident, but by a coordinated act of aggression from wild animals in his own backyard. His death was not just tragic, it was symbolic of a deeper crisis. News of the incident spread rapidly, first through local WhatsApp groups, then into the regional press, and finally across the country. The idea that monkeys, animals so deeply woven into Indian cultural and religious identity, could become killers was both unthinkable and undeniable. It wasn't the first time such a story made headlines, but it was the first time it felt like the breaking point. In the days following Munna's death, locals came forward with more horror stories. Children chased and bitten while walking to school. Women attacked for carrying fruit or bags of groceries. Market stalls raided by aggressive monkey bands that seemed to work in unspoken coordination. Some residents had even begun arming themselves with sticks, firecrackers or slingshots, desperate and sometimes dangerous deterrents. Forest Department officials were called in. Traps were set, a small number of monkeys were caught and relocated to the Sanjay Gandhi Biological Park, a well-known zoo in Patna. But the process was slow, and many residents complained that it was too little, too late. The monkey population in the area had grown exponentially over the years, and now, with food sources limited and human proximity normalized, they had become bold, even violent. But perhaps the most difficult question remained unanswered. Why? Was it deforestation, overpopulation, a broken urban ecosystem where animals and humans were forced into unnatural confrontation? Or was it something deeper, a kind of behavioral shift among certain monkey populations living in close contact with humans for too long? Experts weighed in. Behavioral ecologists warned that such incidents were likely to increase, not decrease, as cities expanded and natural habitats disappeared. Some advocated for sterilization programs, others recommended stricter anti-feeding laws. A few more drastically called for population culling, a controversial stance in a country where monkeys are often regarded as sacred. For the people of Patna, none of these theories mattered in the short term. What mattered was that a kind man had died doing something as simple as sweeping his front step. A victim not of crime, not of nature red in tooth and claw, but of a world where the line between wild and civilized had been blurred beyond recognition. Munna Mishra was the third local fatality attributed to monkey violence that year. How many more would follow? And so ends another haunting chapter in the wild, unpredictable book of human-animal conflict. What happened to Munna Mishra wasn't just a tragedy, it was a warning. As our cities grow and our wild neighbours are pushed further into our world, we must ask ourselves, are we prepared for what happens next? If this story moved you, shocked you, or made you think differently about the natural world, then we invite you to be part of our mission to raise awareness through real stories. Please give this video a thumbs up. It helps us reach more viewers who care about understanding and respecting the power of nature. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your opinions, experiences, or any wild encounters you've witnessed firsthand. Share this video with friends, on social media, or anywhere people need to be reminded just how close the wild still is. Subscribe to Savage Tales, Animal Encounters, because every week we bring you gripping true stories of survival, loss, and the fierce instincts that bind us all to the animal kingdom. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're always the first to know when a new tale drops. Thank you for watching and for being a part of this growing community of curious minds, animal advocates, and truth seekers. Until next time, this is Savage Tales, Animal Encounters, where nature doesn't knock, it breaks in.